हिंदुस्तान क्या दो हिस्सों में बढ़ जाता है, इंडिया एंड हिंदुस्तान। अब उसका मिश्रण क्यों नहीं हो सकता? व्हाई डू वी शाय अवे फ्रॉम बीइंग एबल टू बी प्राउड ऑफ स्पीकिंग आवर लैंग्वेज आल्सो?
झाज नहीं जैज, स्केट नहीं स्केट्स, और मस्कल मैन नहीं पर मसल मैन. Hindi cinema over the years has highlighted Indians' anxieties about being able to speak good English.
Now I was actually preparing my conversation for just ordering a burger. I mean, what is wrong? Why can't we just simply speak in Hindi with each other?
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I will talk about English. The English language, the English medium education which has been installed in India since the colonial era. And I have a controversial opinion on this, because I sincerely believe that English language education in India is strongly and majorly responsible for keeping India poor, because I strongly believe that the English language education is a major disadvantage to India. I've heard many people say that the fact that India or Indians can speak English is a major advantage. Yes, but I think the English medium education itself is a disadvantage. So let's get right into this. First point, kids benefit if they grow up in an English medium schools. Now, just a short recap, many schools in India are completely in English. Many private English medium schools in India are completely in English. I grew up myself in a school where everything was in English except the subject Hindi, which is the native language of North India, of Delhi. And yeah, but everything else is in English. Now, all the research has shown that if you study in a language which is not your native language, then this is a major disadvantage for a child, because a child cannot grasp concepts properly. Now, UNICEF is this big organization affiliated with the United Nations, and they have said that every child has a right to be educated in his native language. Most importantly, children taught in their mother tongue tend to perform better academically in the longer run. Learning and teaching in their own language also help to preserve and promote the cultural identity of a community. Besides, supporting mastery of the first language also promotes the cognitive development needed to learn a second language more easily. And when this report talks about India, it says, however, about 37% of students in lower and middle income countries in the world are not being taught in the language they speak and understand best. In India, the estimate is around 35%, including many children studying in English medium schools. So this report is talking about children like me who grew up in English medium schools. Kids like me spoke Hindi at home with their friends, with their family, parents, grandparents. But the school education, the subject, the school books, everything was in English. If I give you a small example from my life, I could read an English newspaper in India while I was growing up in India very comfortably, and I also enjoyed doing that. But if you had given me a newspaper in Hindi, in my native language, I would have struggled to read it, simply because my education system never really exposed me that much to reading and writing in my own native language. Have a look at this video which I found on YouTube. It's a very interesting video which is also talking on this topic.
क्योंकि बहुत से लोग ये भी कह रहे हैं कि अंग्रेज़ी को हटाकर अगर हम मातृभाषा को माध्यम करें तो हमारे बच्चे क्या पिछड़ नहीं जाएंगे, क्या वो आईटी और आईआईटीज़ में जा पाएंगे दुनिया के स्तर पर। तो एक तरफ शिक्षा के बारे में आम जनता की धारणा ये है कि सबसे अच्छी शिक्षा प्राइवेट स्कूल्स जो कि इंग्लिश मीडियम में 3 साल के उम्र से ही शुरू करते हैं, उनके बच्चे सबसे आगे होते हैं। तो
जितने भी शिक्षा की नीति चलाने वाले हैं या शिक्षा को के जानकार हैं, वो अरसे से जानते आए हैं और मानते आए हैं और बोलते आए हैं कि जब शिक्षा प्राथमिक शाला में जो शिक्षा होती है, अगर वो मातृभाषा में होती है, तो एक तो बहुत स्वाभाविक रूप से बच्चा सीखता है, और दूसरा शिक्षा गहन होती है और दूर तक जाती है। कि अगर बच्चा अमूमन 3 साल पहले स्कूल आने से 3.5 साल पहले माँ और पिताजी या घर पे एक भाषा बोले, जो हिंदुस्तान में अक्सर अंग्रेजी नहीं होती है, महज 2% प्रतिशत तबका होगा जो अंग्रेजी बोलता है। अगर वे विद्यालय आते हैं या सीखने का कार्यक्रम शुरू करते हैं, हम पहले तो उन्हें यह कह देते कि तुम अपनी भाषा तो भूल जाओ, हम तुम्हें अलग भाषा सिखाएंगे। बच्चा वहीं प्रश्न पूछना और जिज्ञासा पे एक थोड़ा सा रोक लगना शुरू हो जाता है।
And they're absolutely right. I can also tell you from my time when I attended an international school in Germany, in Wiesbaden, I went to that school's website and I saw something very interesting. This English medium school is also emphasizing on native language education. In fact, even math, a subject like math, where you think it's just numbers and there's not enough language to be spoken, the school is trying to teach subjects like math in the native language of the children. Something interesting I found here: allowing students to conduct numbered talks in their home language helps to improve their understanding of both math concepts and vocabulary. Beyond those fundamentals, though, it also helps support students' home languages and cultural identities. Also, from my time in Germany, after the international schools, I attended German public schools. The German public schools, even though they were in German completely, they did organize native language education for children who were from immigrant families who spoke a different language at home. So unfortunately, there were no Hindi classes for me because we didn't have enough Indian students. I was the only Indian student. My friends who were from Turkish families or Russian families, well, they had Turkish classes or Russian classes. Why? Because the system knows that if the students can understand and speak their native language properly, then it's much more easier for them to grasp other concepts also. While in India, schools are obsessed with only in English. Second major point is that of a common language. So you would hear many people say that, yeah, English is good, so South Indians and North Indians can speak with each other. But I find this also very ridiculous because, India has so many native languages. You've got, I think, 12 official languages, which are on the currency note, hundreds of dialects. Why don't you take one of them to use as interstate communication? Why don't you take a native Indian language? Why do you have to take the only European language which you have to speak with each other? They start fighting with each other. They say, no, I don't want to learn your language. You learn my language. No, you should learn my language. If you are a country that at some point you just have to agree on something, okay? There are many countries which have the concept that they make a language of one specific group the national language. For example, in China, they speak many different dialects in China, but the northern Chinese dialect, which is Mandarin, has been made the standard language, the official language of China. Same with Indonesia. Indonesia has many languages, but they just decided that Bahasa Indonesia is going to be their common language. So they all learn Bahasa Indonesia. Even in Africa, I went to Kenya, and in Kenya, they also speak English because it was an English colony, but they also have a national language called Swahili. Now, they have 42 tribes, and Swahili is the language of the Swahili tribe. So it's the language of just one tribe, but it has established itself as a national language, and the other 41 tribes do not fight that they have to learn the language of another tribe. They just accept it. We have the capital of India, Delhi, is in North India. Technically, this is a disadvantage for South Indians. But if you make the capital in South India, this would be unfair to North Indians. So it's like saying that let's make the capital of India in London, because then it has the equal distance for South Indians and North Indians, and it's equally fair to them. Yes, that would be equally fair, but that would be completely pointless. Anyways, from my travel experiences in India, I feel that English literacy is much lower than Hindi literacy. Even if you go to the metros like Delhi, Mumbai, half of the population cannot speak English. Yeah, this is my personal impression. Half of the population, because half of the population are people like this. Simple people, hardworking people who work day and night to make ends meet. And many people like this, they do not speak English. So it's a big challenge for these people now to study English. And for them also, many of these people are trying to put their children in English medium schools because they feel that English is the way to make progress in India.
और बहुत प्रेशर है क्योंकि आजकल जॉब क्वालिफिकेशन के लिए इंग्लिश बहुत जरूरी है, तो जो पेरेंट्स इंग्लिश नहीं भी जानते वो बोलते हैं अपने बच्चों को, यार बेटा जाओ तुम इंग्लिश ज्यादा सीखो, हिंदी नहीं भी बोलोगे हमें चल जाएगा, या पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है, पर इंग्लिश सीखो क्योंकि वो प्रेशर है.
But that again leads to the other problem, that the schools they're sending their children to do not have good teachers who can speak English properly, and they do not have a good teaching methods in English, and ultimately the kids, they can't speak English properly, they can't speak the native language properly. So it's just not good. The most important point which you would be saying, now you would be thinking, okay, I get that with the cognitive aspect, I get it with the common language, but we need English to develop as a country, especially in science and technology. Well, here I would like to talk to you about India and its neighbors. You see, the neighboring countries of India, like Japan, China, Taiwan, and Korea. They're also Asian neighbors of India. They've also been poor developing countries. They've also, like India suffered from colonialism, they've also suffered from many things. Japan suffered in World War II. Taiwan and China had a civil war going on. Korea had its own Korean War in the 50s. So these countries have had a lot of misery and suffering also. Despite that, these countries are now way ahead of India when it comes to technologies. Japanese cars are world famous. Korean smartphones are world famous. Taiwanese laptops are world famous. And China pretty much makes everything else. They have made huge advances in technology, in science and technology, despite being non-English speaking countries. If you travel to these countries, I've traveled to China and Taiwan, and the English literacy is almost zero. It is really, really, really low. So these countries, they do not teach science and technology subjects in English. They teach them in their native language.
और बाकी कंट्रीज ने अपनी लैंग्वेज को बहुत बचा के रखा है और उन्होंने यूज किया उस लैंग्वेज को. लाइक इफ विल गो चाइना, जापान, उन लोगों ने अपनी लैंग्वेज में इंजीनियरिंग बुक्स हैं. सिर्फ इंडिया में बुक्स इंजीनियरिंग की इंग्लिश में.
हमारा पूरा एजुकेशन सिस्टम इंग्लिश
में है. Now the Japanese became so good at car manufacturing that even the Westerners, the Europeans and the Americans started copying their production concepts, their car production concepts.
In fact, Toyota are obsessed with their quest for continuous improvement. It's a principle of the Japanese philosophy of lean production called Kaizen. Pioneered by Toyota, today it's used throughout the industry. Toyota have tried to Kaizen every single part of their production system, looking for ways to make it as efficient as possible.
I studied engineering in Germany, and even here in Germany, we used to study about Japanese concepts like Kaizen, like Pokayoke, like Toyota production system. We used to study about Japanese concepts because they were so innovative and so revolutionary. And these concepts were so Japanese that they still have a Japanese name, because Kaizen, Pokayoke are Japanese words. So it's incredible how a country, without speaking English, can actually teach the West about engineering. Another example I can give you is about Korea. Now, it's a country with only 50 million people living. It's the only place in the world where they speak Korean. Well, there's also North Korea, but that doesn't count. So, 50 million population, yet they keep the whole education system is in Korean only. And guess what? They have created great global brands like Kia, like Hyundai, like Samsung, like LG. Their brands are world famous. And have you ever heard of any Indian technology brand which is famous in the West? It is not. Like, I've never heard of any Indian technology brand being famous in the West. So you get my point. Another point is the point about doctors, about medicine. I was shocked to read this because this means that until now, it was not possible to study medicine in India in Hindi. And I really did some research and found out that until now, you could only study medicine and become a doctor in India if you could speak English. Because otherwise, there's simply no education ecosystem in Hindi or in Marathi or Punjabi. The whole education system is only in English. So that means basically if you're a poor girl or a boy from a village who's smart and talented, wants to become a doctor, but you can't speak English, then you can't become a doctor in India. Look at China, look at Arabia, Korea, and Japan, and they all are teaching their kids in their native language. They're becoming doctors after studying in Chinese and Japanese and Arabic. But you can't become a doctor because if you don't speak English in India. So when I got a nose operation once in Germany, the doctors suggested me to do the nasal shower. And I did some research and I found out this is an Indian concept called Jal Niti, invented way back by Indians. So now even German doctors are recommending Jal Niti to their patients in Germany. Or you talk about Sushruta, who is considered the father of plastic surgery, because he really was probably the first one who ever did a plastic surgery. So the ancient Indians were really, really progressive when it came to the human body and the life sciences. And they did all that without speaking English or any European languages. So to say that now we need English to become a good doctor is just ridiculous. So I think the main problem is just that in India, after it became independent from the British, they just did not change the education system. The country as such failed to create an education ecosystem in its own native languages. And the country just took a shortcut and just took what the British had left. Also, obviously, there's a big problem with elitism and division which is created in society, because if the elite of the society is the English-speaking elite and the others are the non-English speakers, well, that does create some tension and some friction in the society. There seems to be an issue that there is some uneasiness about this in India, and this is again just a very unnecessary problem created, I feel, by this English education system.
इन स्पेशली द यूथ ऑफ इंडिया, अरे हमको अंग्रेजी बोलनी तो आती नहीं, ना हमसे लड़की हमको गर्लफ्रेंड मिलेगी, ना हम जिंदगी में कुछ कर पाएंगे, ना नौकरी मिलेगी।
बचपन से वो फील कराया जाता है कि अरे इंग्लिश मीडियम, हिंदी मीडियम, इंग्लिश मीडियम, और तुम्हारी बिलोंगिंग, मतलब तुम पढ़ी हिंदी मीडियम में रहे हो तो अभी तुम कैसे एक दिन में जाके, एक फैमिली मिली उनसे, उनके सारे बच्चे इंग्लिश मीडियम में पढ़े हुए हैं और इंग्लिश मीडियम में बात कर रहे हैं, यू बिकम एलियन टू देम एंड दे बिकम एलियन टू यू।
लोग फ्लाइटों में प्यासे घूम रहे हैं लेकिन एयर होस्टेस को नहीं बुला रहे हैं, कहीं इंग्लिश नहीं बोल पाए तो बेइज्जती हो जाए। लेकिन इंग्लिश को लेके जो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता है, जो छोटे और बड़े का भेदभाव होता है, इससे मुझे प्रॉब्लम है।
ये कुछ नया नहीं है। डे टू डे लाइफ में आपको काफी सारे ऐसे बंदे मिल जाएंगे जो इंग्लिश बोलने की कोशिश करते हैं, फिर चाहे वो इंग्लिश बोलकर लड़की पटाना हो,
Hey, are you stupid?
No, only crazy for you, baby.
जॉब में इंटरव्यू देना हो।
ये लो सर, बोल दिया मैंने 4 और लाइन अंग्रेजी में। अब बताइए, क्या मैं आपके मल्टीनेशनल कंपनी के लायक हूँ?
या फिर पेरेंट्स का प्रेशर अपने बच्चों पर इंग्लिश बोलने के लिए हो।
फर्स्ट भी आ सकता है अगर फिजिक्स में थोड़ा और इंटरेस्ट होता तो।
पर इंग्लिश में टॉप है।
इंग्लिश में शी इज एक्सीलेंट।
Now, the Indian government has launched this new education policy which says that schools should focus more on the native language and teach in the native language. Let's see where this goes, how this ends. It is a first step in the right direction, but the first and most important thing is for people to understand that studying in a language which is not your native language brings a lot of problems with it. And you should study English as a second language, as a foreign language. That's great. But do not try to force yourself to study everything in English. So let me know what you think about my points in the comments below. I will be reading them. Thank you for watching this video. Take care.